For years, children and youth in and from care felt we weren't being heard. Erwin met with youth living in group homes, foster homes, and shelters across the province. He learned about our desire for change and how we need to be better supported so that we can be successful when we leave care. Right now, when we turn 21, care officially ends. But in reality, it ends sooner for many.
Leaving care for me meant that I lost my second family. Leaving care for me was sudden and very scary and permanent. It was not a transition at all. It was a very permanent separation.
Erwin heard us. He also met with Ontario government ministries and other youth groups and organizations. From all these meetings, the youth involved had a clear message. Erwin created a team, and together with the support of his office, we decided to organize and hold the Youth Leaving Care hearings at Queen's Park. We wanted to speak directly to our parent, the province of Ontario, about aging out of care and how it could be better. We came up with a slogan, "Our Voice, Our Turn," and set off to raise awareness about the hearings. We wanted youth in and from care and anyone else to know how their voices could be heard. After receiving our first few submissions in August 2011, it was clear that the youth and PFFs wanted to address more than just the issues of leaving care. They wanted to talk about the many struggles we face during and after care. Knowing more would help us learn how youth could better succeed when we age out of care. In November 2011, for the first time in Canada, we held our own public hearings at the provincial legislature. Many of the people who attended left the hearings with a deeper understanding of the everyday struggles we face. We carefully read all the submissions and reviewed everything that was said at the hearings. With the help of the research advisor, we identified the themes that make up this report. Staying true to the authenticity that characterized the hearings, this report is created by us, Youth in and from Care, with the support of the Advocate's Office.
Sometimes, through no fault of your own, you do get isolated, but there might be some times where you're labeled and it might be your fault and you are isolated that way as well. Maybe you didn't do the right thing. So having those positive interactions to boost your confidence are important. If I'm hanging out with deaf friends, then my confidence is boosted. That's not necessarily the case if I'm hanging out with hearing youth. If I go to a place like the Canadian Hearing Society or I'm at school, then my confidence is boosted and I feel like I'm supported. So depending on who the deaf youth are that I'm hanging out with, as long as they're not teasing you or making fun of you, it can be a confidence booster. There were interpreters in place. There was what would be considered a junior group home for ages 4 until 12. Now, they did have interpreters there, but the interaction was a little bit awkward because everyone would prefer to communicate directly one-on-one. I think the best thing to focus on would be technology. The changes to technology has helped to make communication a lot easier. I believe that technology is the thing. I believe in it. I look back at when deaf people used to write back and forth, and you can see how things have gotten better, and technology has improved, so now you can just type back and forth on your mobile to communicate. To have that relationship with foster parents, to bond with foster parents, to have them all of a sudden come into your life and to have that relationship, it's not easy for many kids. I think the system plays a role in that. That's what I believe. Yes, I would say that it has a big impact. I think when you grow up with your family and you know your family well, your birth family, and then all of a sudden at 9 or 10, you're moved out of the family home. Later on, you're brought back into the family home. You feel different. Things are very different. It takes some time. It might take a few years. It may take a while for you to become settled. It was tough for me in my situation with my mother. It was tough. It was difficult. It wasn't too serious, and we've been fine ever since, but it was very emotional. And I almost blame the fact that I wasn't taken care of and they didn't fully take responsibility. So you struggle with some of those issues. And things have gotten better. They're not as bad as they were before, but I think that it impacts kids overall, that disconnect.
Living with different families made me feel vulnerable, just because those families, the siblings and the parents, they already had an established relationship, and like I'm coming in, I need to learn all the new rules of the house and things like that. But for me, like, our cultures are very different and I grew up very differently, so like it was really hard for people to understand that. Like, they sort of just saw things as, you know, like, you're a difficult child. One thing that really stands out is looking people in the eye, because growing up in like a Chinese traditional home, it's actually very disrespectful for you to look at your elders in the eyes when you speak to them and when they're speaking to you. So when I would go into a new family and then they talk to me and they're my elders, so I would look down, but they would think that I'm being disrespectful, I'm not listening to them. Like a lot of the understanding and interpretations of like who I am came from written reports that previous like social workers have written. Knowing that they have these reports and they read them and whatnot, going in, it makes me feel very judged, and it's sort of like, I'm just meeting you, right? But you already have a, I don't want to say stereotypical or biased perception, but sometimes it can be, of who I am, how I'm going to act, how I'm going to behave, what services are best for me, before even meeting me in person. Having someone that you don't know at all, and now deciding, like, making like huge life decisions for you, that in itself, I think, makes me vulnerable. And when they just sort of base it on their own biases or their own intuition of what's best or what they should do next, I think it's very unfair. And then these people making decisions, and then the results or the consequence that comes out from them. And if they're negative, like, I feel like, why? Like, you know, this didn't have to happen, you know? Like, if you sort of asked me first, like, what you should do or try to understand me better, then I wouldn't have to go through this, right? And I just felt like, yeah, it's sort of like I felt more oppressed than empowered.